Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. Anchor gives you everything you need in one place for free, which you can use right from your phone or computer. Creation tools allow you to record and edit your podcast so it sounds great. They'll distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard everywhere: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. I'm Michael Chabot, and I'm here to tell you that there will always be challenges in life, and in some cases, like mine, tragedies. But human beings are resilient. All you need to do is make a decision today. Follow me on this journey to hope, and together we will live, we will learn, and we will grow. And hopefully, we will find some hope in every day. Welcome to my journey to hope. This episode is about my daughter, my peanut, my Gabriella. Gabriella was born on February 16th, 2003, and let's just say it was not an easy birth. It wasn't an easy birth for her, and it wasn't an easy birth for my wife. You see, Gabriella was what they call sunny side up. Instead of being face down to come into the world, she wanted to come in face up and see everything in front of her from the moment she entered the world. That was Gabriella. That's who she was. And she was this tiny, she was 6 pounds, I think 6 pounds, 6 ounces, something like that. She was a tiny, dainty, ladylike little peanut. And she remained like that for her entire life. She, at 2 years old, loved putting on lip gloss and dressing up. My wife bought her like all of these costumes and dresses, like different eras, 20s, 40s, princess costumes, like all these different things. And I have just these amazing memories of her dressing up in all these little costumes from the time she was around 2. And you know, when Gabriella was around 2, I saved her life. Gabriella had been sick, and she had what's called a febrile seizure, and my wife was holding her, and she basically turned blue. And I had to put my finger in her mouth, open her airway, and get her breathing again. And I always told her, I said, Gab, Papa saved your life once. And we all know from listening from the past episodes is that maybe in that moment I saved hers, but she saved my life 1,000 times over. 1,000 times over with her life and who she was. She was always full of life. She was always happy, smiling. She was our courageous, brave one, never afraid to try anything new. She's the first one who learned how to ski. She's the first one who went rock climbing and zip lining and riding bikes. She was a brave little girl. She was courageous and adventurous. And that all changed one summer afternoon. She was, I think, 8 or 9 years old. And we were on a friend's trampoline. And my daughters were in there jumping and having fun. And I went in and was jumping and having fun. And then I got out and then back in. And then their mother came and they're like, "Oh, Mama, look how high we could go." So I got back in to show them, with me jumping with them, how high they could go. And Gabriella, I jumped and she went up and came down and she was like, "Ow, ow, ow." And I was like, "What happened?" And she's like, "I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay." And looked at her ankle, and it was the size of a softball instantly. She broke her ankle, and she was in a cast, God, almost the entire summer. I remember after she got her cast off, we went to San Diego on a family vacation. The doctor had given her a wheelchair because she was young. He didn't want her to use crutches. And even after her cast came off, she was afraid to walk on it. You see, what happened was Gabriella became anxious. She developed anxiety. And I recently read her journal. She kept a journal. The first entry in it talks about her anxiety and that day and how her anxiety was born and how it came to her, how it burst through the door. She was a very good writer, and that broke my heart. I never wanted that for her, for any of my children. You see, I suffer from anxiety. I suffer from panic attacks. Unfortunately, it runs in my mom's side of the family. For me, I had an allergic reaction to some medication. And let me just say, I've always been anxious my whole life, right? A worrier, a thinker. And I had this moment where I had an allergic reaction to medication at work. They had to take me to the hospital on a stretcher, the whole story. And after that, I developed anxiety and I developed panic attacks. And if you've never had a panic attack, my God, I don't hope any of you listening do, but you feel like you're dying. You feel like you need to jump out of your own skin. It's terrible. And to know that my 8 or 9-year-old daughter had started to suffer that's heartbreaking. And I learned techniques to control my panic attacks and anxiety. And then my daughter's death brought it all coming back. It came back with a vengeance. It brought my anxiety and my panic attacks back to a point where they were worse they've ever been. I mean, literally, like I'd have a panic attack going to the grocery store because I would remember a time that I was there with my daughter. And I'll tell you what's helped my panic attacks and my anxiety the most is meditation. It's breathing. It's the deep breathing technique, slowing down your exhale, just letting your body relax. And I think it teaches you how to control your mind and your thoughts. Well, fast forward to, I want to say it was when Gab was going into middle school. My kids all went to the same elementary school. It was called St. Patrick's. Just the most amazing, loving place on the planet. That's the way that I really describe it. I mean, it just helped my children so much develop into the young men and women that they are today. And then my daughters went off to a school called Lorena, which is an all-girls Catholic private school. And Gabriella was extremely anxious about going to that school, just stomach aches and throwing up. And by the grace of God, my wife found the most amazing therapist who specialized in teen girls. Kelly, she saved my daughter's life. She really did. In working with Kelly, the old Gabriella reemerged. Everyone in my family noticed it. My parents, my sister, all of our friends. She came out of her shell. She became that fun, witty, sassy, happy young lady with that beautiful, radiant smile. She returned. She came back to us. And it made my heart soar to see my daughter emerge from that darkness. I get emotional thinking about it right now. You see, anxiety is debilitating. It can cripple you. It gets so bad for some people that they can't leave the house, and that's what was starting to happen to my daughter. And I will tell you that Kelly changed my daughter's life, and from that moment on until her passing was truly, I believe, the best time of her life. People ask me a lot about Gabriella's relationship with her brother and sister. You see, she has a sister who's older, about 3 years older, and a brother who's younger. He's about 2 years younger than her, and man, she loved her siblings. She loved and protected her brother from the day he was born. We have pictures upstairs in our house where he was a baby and her holding him and smiling, and she just always loved her brother. They shared a room together for about 5 years. They loved it. They absolutely loved being in the same room together. At night when we'd send them to bed, we'd hear them laughing and joking and playing and having fun. Of course, like parents, we'd be saying, hey guys, go to bed. But in your heart and in your mind, you're smiling and you're laughing with them because you know that the bond between siblings, there's nothing better. Gabriella, we have a bedroom downstairs that we turned into what we called her big girl room. At the time when she passed away, she was kind of in transition. All of her big girl clothes were downstairs. All of her young lady stuff was downstairs, and she was kind of going back and forth, because I think for her it was just as hard to separate and move on from sharing that room with her brother because the bond between them was so deep. And it's funny, I remember this like yesterday. And I don't remember if it was sixth grade or seventh grade for my son, but there was a girl that showed interest in him, right? Kind of the first girl that was interested in our son. And when Gabriella found out, she was like, "What? Who? Who's this girl? I want to see who she is. I want to meet her. I'm going to tell her to stay away from my brother. No way. I'm not having it." It was amazing to see her, mama hen, I guess, kind of about her. And Gabriella was tough. Gabriella had the most warm, loving heart and spirit, but man, don't piss her off because she was a tough cookie. And I love that about her. She truly loved her brother. She truly loved her brother with all her heart. They had a special bond. And I miss that. I miss it for me. I miss it for him. I miss it for them. Gabriella and my oldest daughter also shared a special bond. As I said earlier, Gab was right in the middle. She was the glue, as I say, that held them both together. Because my son and my oldest are 5 years apart, so they butt heads a lot because they're very much alike. They even look alike. Gabriella used to call them the twins. She truly was the glue that just held it all together. She could go from hanging with her sister, doing the things that, young ladies and girls do in the same day, and then go and sit with my son and play 3 hours of Xbox video games and fit right in with him and his buddies. She truly was a special, special girl. I smile as I talk about this because I have my eyes closed right now and I can see her sitting with my son upstairs. We have what we call the playroom because they were small when we moved in here. And I can see them together playing games and laughing and having fun and just acting silly. And it's funny, I have a great memory of my daughters. They would sit at the dinner table after dinner and talk about music, the music they liked and the shows they watched. Like at that time, they were really into the show called Teen Wolf. And they would talk about the boys and this one's cute and that one's cute and first kisses and this and that. And I would say, "Oh, girls, please don't talk about that around me. That hurts my heart. Please. I know it's reality, but I don't want to hear it. I want to pretend that you're little girls forever." And they would laugh at me. They'd be like, "Oh, Poppy, you're crazy." Not crazy. I just love my daughters with all my heart. The greatest job that I've been given is to be a father to my children, a beacon, a light, a guide, to help them live their greatest life, to help them achieve their greatest self. That's my job. The last few years before Gabriella's passing were a lot of fun because, see, for so many years, I drove my daughters to school. They would, argue over what music to listen to and turn the radio dial 50 million times. And those of you with daughters understand this. But it was so much fun. It's some of the best memories that I have of driving them to school every morning and how we would laugh. And, I'm a little aggressive in the car. And my daughter, Gabriella, would laugh at me. And then I would complain about, man, I hit this red light. And she would just laugh. And she'd say, "You're crazy, Poppy. You're crazy." I miss it so much. Then when my oldest daughter, started to drive, in some ways I was relieved because I didn't have to make that drive and that stress in the morning of getting them to school on time. But of course, as parents who have teenagers who drive, there's those stresses, right, of them being on the road and being responsible and paying attention and not getting distracted. But it was so much fun to watch my girls grow and drive to school together every morning and keep themselves accountable to get out the door on time. And Gabriella was not a morning person. So her and my oldest daughter is, and so they would argue a lot in the morning. But then I would see them drive away and they'd be singing songs and having fun and laughing and of course talking about boys and their friends and all the drama at school. I miss that so much. I miss seeing them singing and laughing and giggling because I know they're talking about a boy. Those are the things that when you lose a child, that your soul just longs for. It screams out for in agony. But I hang on to those memories because that's what fuels me to keep moving forward. Let me tell you that Gabriella was absolutely, of my 3 children, the most loving, affectionate, and emotional child. They're all amazing children. I love them all dearly. But Gabriella was special. Everybody who met her said so. There was something special about her. And I think what it was is her heart. She had such a warm heart, such love and compassion. She always kissed me, always hugged me. Every night she'd come in my room. Good night, Poppy. I love you, Poppy. She would give me a kiss, let me hug her. Sometimes I'd pat her behind. And she'd be like, Poppy. She would let me hold her hand, like walking around the mall, or if we were going out to dinner, stuff like that. She was just so lovable. And I think that's why people felt she was special. She loved her mother deeply. They had such a special bond. It breaks my heart when I think about it because I know what a bond those two had. My wife truly, with all her being, loved that child. And as I said, she was special. People sometimes ask me about, her friends and the impact that she had and things that she did with her life to make a difference in her short amount of time, which was, about almost 15 years. As I said, she passed a week before her 15th birthday. And I want to read just a little bit of an email that came from one of her school friends. So my daughter went to the same school from kindergarten through 6th grade. And they pretty much had the same kids in every class. Every class they moved up every year. A couple new kids came, one left. And there was one girl in particular that they were in the same class together. And then they moved on to Lorena, which is the school I was talking about earlier. And they weren't really that close. They knew each other. They were friends, but not that close. But in 7th grade, they became very close. And see, this young girl, her mom sent us this email after our daughter had passed. And this girl and my daughter, Gabriella, became very close friends. This girl was not happy after the first day. She did not like the school. Her family was not Catholic. So, religion is a big part of that school. And she just felt uncomfortable. And there is a few things that I think are important to read. It says that her daughter received the worst grades of her entire school career that year. She struggled with finding the right friends, finding a group she belonged to. The only person who kept her grounded and happy that year was our amazing daughter. She had a nickname for her. She called her Gabby Ree. See, we wouldn't let anybody call our daughter Gabby. We always said to her from the day she was born, don't let anybody call you Gabby. Your name is beautiful. It's Gabriella. Not that there's anything wrong with Gabby. It's cute, but we liked Gabriella. Well, this friend gave her the nickname Gabby Ree, and it stuck. And I still think it's awesome for her. She writes here that my daughter would joke with her daughter, read her horoscope, even braid her hair. She says she looks back on that tough year for her daughter and always thinks about how fortunate she was to have Gabby Ree in her life. She writes, I want you to hear that Gabriella had a huge impact on my daughter and our family without even knowing it. Gabriella offered her kindness, sense of humor, and friendship to our daughter so willingly. We will always be so grateful for her, and we will always try to model ourselves after her. The day that I read that, and this email was sent to us only about 2 weeks after our daughter passed, of course it brought me to tears. It made me cry. It made me sad, but it made me so damn proud. So proud to read and listen and learn that at 13, at 14, my daughter was such an amazing human being, that she was just loving people unselfishly, giving back to others, which of course is what I'm trying to do here. Yes, this is my journey to hope, but my hope for this journey is that it helps others, helps lift others out of the darkness, out of their hole, out of their anxiety, whatever it is that they're suffering. And my daughter was a natural at it, and I am so damn proud of her for that. I can't tell you how many stories have been shared with us like that since my daughter's passing about her friends and other students that she helped by loving and supporting them when they were struggling. Each one of them has made me cry. Each one of them has made me smile. Each one has made me proud as hell. The school that she went to, Lorena, that Lorena family, from the day our daughter passed, truly lifted us up and held us in their hearts with their prayers. In my previous episode, I talked about my hockey family. Well, my Lorena family, our Lorena family, did the same thing for us. They were amazing. They helped us with food. When, the last thing you want to think about is cooking dinner. They just helped us with everything, financially, emotionally, spiritually. I can't tell you the amount of love and support that we received, and they helped us create a scholarship in my daughter's name. Our goal is, through that scholarship, is to help other young ladies who maybe don't have the finances, or their families don't have the financial ability to send them there or even keep them there, is to help them. And this year, they gave out the very first Gabriella Chabot scholarship to a family. And it made me so damn proud and so happy that we achieved our goal. And this goal couldn't be possible without some amazing people who have given so freely and so generously. And I want to read to you this letter because it's the most moving letter that I've read. And I won't mention any names, but this is the girl who received the initial, or the inaugural, I guess I should say, Gabriella Chabot scholarship. It says, "Dear Chabot family, I first want to offer my sympathies for the loss of your beautiful daughter Gabriella last year. Next year, I will be entering 9th grade at Lorena High School and Middle School. On May 23rd, at my 8th grade promotion, I received the first Gabriella Chabot Memorial Scholarship. This meant a lot to me, and I wanted to share a few connections I have to Gabriella. I started my education at Lorena in the middle of my 7th grade year. My first day of school was supposed to be on February 9th, 2018. However, the night before, on the evening of February 8th, my family and I received a phone call from the head of student admissions. She told us that we couldn't come to school the following day because one of their students had passed away earlier that evening. I remember my whole family came together in prayer for that student, Gabriella Chabot, and her family. Near the end of my 7th grade school year, I remember walking down the 100s hall where the high school students' lockers were located. Down the hallway, I saw a locker decorated, all around it with pictures of Gabriella. In front of it, I saw flowers at the foot of the locker. There, I saw the principal, standing in front of it and just looking at all the pictures of her. I remember talking to him briefly as I passed, and he was telling me about what an amazing girl Gabriella was. Then this past Thursday, at the church where the 8th grade promotion was held, I was given the honor of receiving the Gabriella Chabot Memorial Scholarship. As I went up to receive it, I remember seeing people in tears. After the promotion, I was approached by the school librarian. She came up to me and told me the deep meaning behind the scholarship I was given. She told me that this was a girl who was loved by many, as tears ran down her face. She then said she wanted to introduce me to two of Gabriella's best friends that were there that evening. I cannot recall the names of the two girls, but I can remember the love and sorrow that their eyes expressed for Gabriella. I told them that I was sorry for their loss and that Gabriella was an amazing young woman. As I exited the church, I also met with teary eyes Mrs. Jorgensen. She wrapped me in a hug and told me that she had known Gabriella and her family since Gabriella was in 3rd grade. During both these encounters, I was brought to tears. Since the moment I was given the scholarship that evening, my mind has replaying all the different experiences that I had just described. I also remember hearing during the scholarship presentation about some of the traits I shared with Gabriella. The two traits that stood out to me most were quirky and animal lover. The way that people have described Gabriella to me have all circled around those words. When they used the term animal lover, I felt it related to me a lot. For the longest time, I have experienced a deep love and connection with animals. This is why once I graduate from Lorena High School, I want to go to veterinarian school and become a full-time working vet. Another thing I share with Gabriella that wasn't said out loud at promotion was her love for the color purple. The passing of the bright and bubbly Gabriella Chabot has not just moved the school, but also the community. I never met Gabriella in person, but I did hear from others who knew her. They described the phenomenal young lady that she was and how she impacted so many lives, including my own. Lastly, I want to express my gratitude to your family for setting up this memorial scholarship. I feel honored to be the first recipient. I want you to know that something good did come out of this. In this year and future years, this scholarship will allow people to find out who Gabriella Chabot was, and I promise you that every one of them will be moved by her character. The story of Gabriella Chabot is hard, The story of Gabriella Chabot is a hard but beautiful tale of a young girl passing and her family taking action to make something good out of it and using her story to change lives. As I begin my high school years at Lorena, I will be thinking of Gabriella Chabot every time I step on that campus or see the Lorena sign. She truly exemplified what it means to be a Lorena girl. She will always be remembered because the name Gabriella Chabot will be forever engraved in my heart. Sorry, I get emotional every time I read that letter because a few reasons. Number one, because it shows what an amazing young woman that I was fortunate enough to be her father for 14, almost 15 years. It also makes me emotional because I promised my daughter in death that I would honor her, that our family would honor her. And my wife and I feel very proud of the scholarship we've set up. You know, that school has been amazing. They planted a tree in my daughter's honor. There's a bench in front of it with a plaque. The love, and I talked about this in my last episode, the love, the empathy, the support, everything we've received from this world and community is so overwhelming, and it just proves to you that people are good. There are good people in the world, and we all need to do our part every day to be good, to give back, to help, because there will always be people like my family who are suffering from one tragedy or another. Now I want to talk about my daughter's foundation. We've started a foundation. It's almost ready to go. It takes a long time to start a foundation. We're just waiting for the IRS to finalize our tax-exempt status. That's what takes the longest. And with that foundation, our goal is to raise awareness. First and foremost for parents. Second of all, we want to have better training for doctors. So grants for doctors for research and better training. You see, my daughter died not from the flu, but from something called viral myocarditis. What happens is another virus gets into the body and it attacks the heart muscle and it starts breaking down the heart muscle. Unless you have an EKG in the ER or even in your doctor's office or a blood test to check what's called troponin, sometimes you could do a test where they test the oxygen levels in the blood. It's hard to detect. And in our daughter's case, none of those tests were done. I don't blame the doctor per se, because I think today what I found in my research is that doctors follow protocol. They have a checklist of things that they go down the list and just check off, right? And then they send you on their way. We had the same experience with our vet. We almost lost our dog because it's the same thing, protocol. Check, 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 check. Okay, on your way. And that is something with our daughter's foundation that we are going to change. Doctors need to take the time. Doctors need to test for all of these things. And doctors need awareness. I had never heard of myocarditis or viral myocarditis in my life. I always assumed when someone died from the flu, it was because it turned into pneumonia. It affected their lungs. I didn't know it was because of the heart. And so, again, the foundation we're starting is, look, first and foremost, it's awareness. Awareness for you that are listening, that are parents, that if your child has the flu, you're educated. You can ask your doctor for additional tests. It's not to scare you. It's to educate you. It's so that you don't have to go through this tragedy and walk this path. It's so you can be armed to the teeth with information. So that you can, like I said, go to your doctor and say, hey, my daughter walked up the stairs last night and she said she felt like she couldn't catch her breath. And I heard somewhere that when kids have the flu, they can get another virus that attacks their heart muscle. I want you to do an EKG. I want you to do a blood test, and I want it done now. And of course, grants for research to identify more diseases like this. One of the other things is we're trying to develop a device, and I won't talk about it, but a device that would act as an early detection warning. That if our goal is met, that we can put it in the hands of every parent, because that's what we would have needed. That's what we would have wanted. Just a chance to save our daughter. Just a chance, a fighting chance. And you know, the other thing that's really important to me is this. When my daughter died, I barely worked. In the year from 2018 February to 2019 February, if I worked like 2 months of that year, that would be a lot. It was very difficult to return to work. Now, I was fortunate. I've had some great success in my career, and I was able to save a lot of money. I was smart, and so I had money to fall back on, but there's a lot of families that don't. And so one of the big things of the foundation that I want to do is to be able to step up and say to families that we can't help as far as early detection and say, look, we've been in your shoes. Let us pay your mortgage for 6 months, 12 months. Let us help you pay your car payments for 6 months, 12 months. Let us help put food on your table. Let us set you up with a service that delivers food to you. Whatever we can do to help ease their burden and help them walk through this path, that is one of the goals of this foundation. And to know that it's in my daughter's honor is one of the greatest things ever. I tell everybody, my daughter's death was the greatest tragedy that's ever happened to me, but she gave me a gift. In death, she gave me a gift. She gave me the gift of an awakening. She has given me an awakening to this journey that I'm on to change the world in her name and in her honor. See, she was an amazing young woman who had so much heart and life and spunk and energy to share in the world. And I cannot and will not let it go undone. It is my life's mission to deliver that to the world for my daughter, Gabriella. She deserves it. She deserves it. All children are special, every single one of them. None of them deserve to have their lives cut short, their fire extinguished. They all deserve to have the chance to make a difference in the world. And yes, my daughter Gabriella doesn't get that chance in her own life, but she gets that chance through her family, through me, through her mother, through her sister, through her brother, from the rest of her family and friends who knew how special she was. We will continue to fight in her name. We will continue to make a difference in her name, and hopefully we can change the world one life at a time. I just want to wrap up by saying thank you again for listening. Thank you for joining me on this journey to hope. And to my sweet baby, Gabriella, Papa loves you so much, baby.